What's up, guys? Let's take a look at today's Advent of Code, or really yesterday's because it was the weekend. It looks like the theme this year is we're following in the footsteps of the chief historian. Our elves researcher has found something and we've got to track him down. So he's got this list of locations that one elf has transcribed and so has another, but they don't line up, so we've got to find the discrepancies. That means first, read them from the input. We get an example, but there's also a big one. Second, we're going to sort them. Then we're going to line them up in zip. And then we're going to find the diff, which in this case is absolute value. So we can do that. Let's see what I've prepared. At probably the beginning of each day, I'm going to have this same thing. We read the file. I've got the example and I've also got the big one. And then we have that. I just called it lines. Then we're going to call part 1. We're going to call part 2. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's get it going. So when we're going to read these, we got to convert them to integers. We got to split, strip, whatever. And let's do that. So I'm going to say left and right, those are going to be the columns because they haven't given us the names of the elves or anything to make it more specifically named. And then I'm going to go, okay, so I've already got the lines, but I need to split them. I'm going to say l.split, which works no matter how many spaces are in between, I'm pretty sure. And then it's going to get two things, but I'm going to go map int onto that so that I can have numbers that I can add instead of strings that I can not do much with. For L and lines. And then, well, I think I need to sort of rotate that. I think it's going to be the classic zip star. Let's try that. Let's print left and see what happens. 3, 4, 2 is the left column, okay? So this is a thing we do a lot in Python. Zip is lining things up, and it's what we're going to do for our final answer. But when you do zip star, it like pops them open and lines them up in a way that ends up rotating, so that's good. So now we're going to say, okay, actually I think we can do it in one line. Let's say return sum of absolute value L minus R, because we're finding the diff, for LR in zip, and this is the two columns, but we have to sort, so I'm going to go sorted left and sorted right. And this is why we love Python, because I think that's it. I think we're good. Let's give it a try. 11. Let's see if that matches the answer. Yes, it was 11 for the sample. So now let's change it to the big data. The only thing that would stop this from working is if it was just too much and our algorithm was too slow. But in this case, we're just looping through once. It's not a big deal. So we got 1388114, and that was in fact the answer when I did this a minute ago to unlock part 2. Let's see what part 2 is. We've got this idea of, hey, instead of just being off by a little bit, maybe the repeats are going to help us. You know, instead of like averaging them out or whatever, maybe if I see one that shows up multiple times, that's a clue that it's probably real, that it wasn't a typo in our ELF OCR. So we're going to calculate for each guy on the left, how many times does it appear on the right? And so I could just use like a loop and we count everyone, but then that would end up repeating the count. Like every time I go through the left, I count the entire right column. So what I'm going to do first is count the right column once, and hey, guess what? Python has something for that. So I'm going to go from collections import counter, and then Well, look at that. Part 2, I'm going to start with the same thing. And then I'm going to go counter equals capital counter of right. And then I'm going to print counter just so we can see what's going on here. And then I'm going to switch this back to the example for a moment. Okay. So this says like, hey, 3 appeared 3 times, 4 appeared once. Let's make sure that actually is right. 3 appeared 3 times. So yeah. So we take each guy on the left times its count for the right, which could be 0, in which case it doesn't like reset the whole count to 0, it just adds nothing for this one particular left guy. And then we do it, so let's do it. Let's say this is also probably a sum of L times counter L for L in left. Is that really it? Oh my gosh. Let's try it. 31. Was it 31? Beautiful. Now let's try it on the big data. This one maybe has an issue with the algorithm. Maybe it's going to be slow because, you know, how much is in there? I think it's 1,000. Yeah. But day 1, they don't give you a super hard problem, and I think it's going to be fine. So let's see here. Let's read the big data. And we got 2, 3, 5, something, something, which in fact was the answer when I entered it a minute ago. So that was a nice, simple day 1, getting us warmed up. Maybe I'll do day 2 today and try to catch up on both since it's Monday. But it was great to see the setup, right? We got our ability to read the file, do the example, bada bing, bada boom. Oh, I wanted to point out one thing. Usually in a Python dictionary, when you look up an item that's not there, you'll get an error and you have to do the get method or whatever. But counters are special. They give you 0 if it's not in there, which is what we wanted in this case. So counter's even better than it seems because it counts and it handles the lookup wonderfully. So we love Python. Maybe we'll try something else as a hard mode on another day, or maybe they'll just get harder due to the nature of the problems. Thanks.